Ah, come in. Nice to meet you. Fabricio, isn't it?
Yes.
So you have a seat here, and you're going to talk to me.
Yeah.
And the audience are to be ignored. They're just here to observe me and to see how I do a first session. So thanks very, very much for coming in. First question really is, have you got any aches, pains, any things that might interest you in the Alexander technique?
Well, I'm recovering from one
Yeah?
here, exactly here, but it's from a very bad moving in period.
Yeah.
So it's temporary, I guess.
Does it hurt now?
It hurts a bit, yeah.
And when you move and walk and sit and stand?
Particularly, yes, when I jump, this kind of movement.
Yes.
And walking too much.
Yeah. Is it an injury?
Yeah. It's, well, from overusing.
Overuse. Okay. Anything else that is uncomfortable in everyday life?
No.
All right.
Sometimes breathing, etc., but it's too much computer time.
Yeah. Okay, so what's going to happen today is I'm going to take you through a typical Alexander session, or not so typical. It'll be my particular version of an Alexander session. You can't do anything wrong. There's nothing you can do wrong. I'll be guiding you. If it doesn't work out the way I want it to work out, that's totally my responsibility. And I'll ask you to do simple movements, or I'll move you. There'll be two ways of working with you. I'll either move you with my hands, or I'll ask you to move yourself. I'll ask you to sit or stand, or move an arm or something. And other times I'll move you. I'll lift up an arm, and I'll move your head, and so on. So it'll be a very, very simple instruction, everyday movements. And if you've got any questions or anything that's uncomfortable, please feel free to let me know.
Yes.
And we'll see where we go. It'll be a mixture of movement work, which is sitting and standing and exploring walking maybe. And then there'll be some time for some table work at the end of the session. Okay. Good. Have you got any questions to ask before we jump in? So even though it can be quite anxiety-provoking to think that you're being observed, I'd really want to emphasize that they're really not observing you, they're observing me.
Okay.
And I'm the one that can make mistakes.
We need to be nervous.
I should be nervous,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. Exactly, that's the right way around. All right, so we will start with you standing. And I think what we'll do is we'll have you standing. I think the best way for you is to stand looking out of the window at the nice weather. And yes, I think this is a good way. Actually, maybe a little bit more in that direction. Yeah, perfect. And I start to work, you're facing over there. And the first thing I'm going to do is move your head. And when I move your head, the request to you is that you don't help me too much. Do the best you can to let me do the movements. And you're letting me take your head to the left or the right. And as far as you're able, not taking over, initiating the movement. So just as you're standing there, does that part of the back hurt you at the moment? Is it uncomfortable just as you're standing? No. Now you can look up at the ceiling, and now I want you to let your head move over there. That's fine. Now you can look at the floor. Now move your head into a strange position, a little bit over to the right. And now very simply, take your hips back and sit in the chair, bend your knees, all the way to the stool. Wait there. And I'll move you forwards and stop. At the moment I'm moving you backwards and forwards, and you're not taking over the movement just yet. And I'll move you forward again. And I'll move your head over to the left. What's your everyday profession? What do you do?
I'm a musician.
What instrument?
Classical guitar.
Is it difficult to play the classical guitar with this, the hip injury?
Yes, because we use a footstool.
Yeah, so when you... Yeah. And stop. And let me move you back again. And stop. I'm going to move you forwards. Let me take your head there. Now, in a moment I'm going to ask you to do a movement, and I'm going to guide you during the movement. So I've got my hands here on your neck and on your back. All I want you to do is to stand up with your feet, all your feet, including your heels. That's it. And bend the knees all the way to the stool. And stand up again. And bend the knees. And heels. And bend the knees. Yeah, that's it. All the way to the stool. And stop there. Yep. I've got your balance. Yeah. I'm going to move you backwards. Stop. Yeah, and I'm going to move you forwards. Stop. Yeah. Your feet are fine wherever they are. I'm going to move you over here. Wait. I'm going to move you forward again and hold it there. And then come up, including your heels. Use your feet to stand. Yeah. And then take the hips back and bend the knees again. And wherever you are, when you reach the stool, stop and leave the feet where they are. Yeah. I'm going to move you back again. And as I said, let me know if there's anything uncomfortable or anything that pops into your experience. If something feels weird, different, uncomfortable, just let me know. I'm going to move you forwards, or even more comfortable. Let me know that too. I'll move you backwards. I'm going to move you forwards and stop. Yeah, and stand up with the heels. And then bend the knees again. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. Knees. And heels. And bend the knees. And knees. Knees. And heels. And obviously it's a bit weird to get in and out of a chair 10, 20 times on the trot. What's it like moving like this? What's your experience?
Boring.
Boring, yes. You wouldn't want to do this all day. And heels. But it's interesting, the word boring, so what's going on in your brain? Like a lack of stimulation? What does boring mean?
Overuse of the same.
Yes, so which muscles are working quite hard?
The thigh.
The thighs, yeah.
Knees.
The knees, of course, yeah. And then...
The butt.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is a strange question. What muscles do you think are working less than...
Shoulders.
Yes. Anything
Neck.
else? Shoulders, neck. Let me take you further forwards. That's right. So shoulders, neck. Anything else that's working?
Arms, of course.
Shoulders, arms. Yeah. That less is happening in those areas, and the boring, repetitive movement is happening somewhere down here. Okay. Let me take you further forwards and stop. Now I'm going to take an arm. I've got all the weight of this arm. Do you get any issues of tension in performance when you're auditioning or when you're...
Well, expected, not too much of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I've still got the weight of the arm. Yeah. And I'm going to move you forwards. Stop. I'm going to this time take you a bit further over your heels. Yes, now you can stand. Yeah. And then come backwards so you're close to the chair. Walk backwards. Yeah, fine. And now take the hips backwards and bend the knees until you reach the stool. And stop. And stand again. Bend the knees. And heels. Yeah, the feet are fine just where they are for now, even though it's a bit of a strange position. Heels down. And bend the knees. And heels. And bend the knees. Heels. And bend the knees. Apart from the boring repetition, what's the experience of moving like? And bend the knees.
It's interesting that half of the body getting stressed.
Yeah, half, exactly. Half is doing stuff, and the other half
It's just there.
is not stressed. It's just there. Yeah. So you could, I'll probably assume you're experiencing that from the hips upwards. Is just there,
Yeah.
and the hips downwards is you're using muscles.
Yeah, of course.
Tension. Yeah. Obviously, playing the guitar, you wouldn't want to be stressing out in your shoulders, neck, and arms. You'd want all that to be free so you can articulate
Yes.
with a minimum
I'm
of tension.
Trained to relax.
Exactly.
The upper part.
You're trained to relax the upper part. Exactly. Yes. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? So now you're experiencing the relaxation of the upper part. So if we had a guitar in here, if you're playing in this condition and all the activity was happening hips downwards, that would give you a good opportunity of doing what you're trained to do. That's it. So again, nothing here. Hips back and bend the knees. And stop. So nothing in the upper part. You could say quite empty. Empty in your neck, empty in your arms, empty in your shoulders, empty in the spine, empty of stress. Let me take you further forwards. That's good. Let me take you back again, and I'll take you forwards again. And stand up with the heels. So in practice, when you're playing, when would you reckon that you most interfere with your neck and spine? When do you not remain as relaxed as ideally you'd like to in playing? What situations?
Well, technically,
Yes.
pieces.
Fast pieces, that would be more demanding, yep.
And the guitar will have these bars.
Yes.
It's very easy to transfer the tension to everyone.
Yes, exactly. So speed would be one thing. What about playing in front of 5,000 people rather than not? That you got used to that. Auditions, got used to that.
I don't do auditions anymore.
Right.
Auditions.
Yeah. So speed. Anything else that would not be so easy to keep this upper part as free as it would like to be? Bend the knees.
If it's like long tour,
Yeah.
airplane time, this kind of.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Soften your tummy a little bit. More. Yeah. Does that feel strange when you've just let go like that?
Yeah.
So you've dropped something down here. You've released something in the chest. Let me take you further forwards and stop. And I'll take you back again. Yeah. So everything stays as free as it can be in the upper part of you, in the neck and shoulders, arms and spine. And it doesn't change even when things happen. And now heels. And then bend the knees. Now we'll introduce some speed. Heels, knees, heels, knees, heels, bend the knees. Obviously it's not as complicated as a fast piece in guitar playing. Bend the knees. Would you still say that you're managing to keep things pretty free?
The upper part.
Yes. Yeah. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. Yeah. Okay, nothing in the neck. I'm going to move your head. And now go up onto the tip of your toes. Yes. And then down to the heels. And onto the toes. Down to the heels. Up onto the toes. And down to the heels. And hips back and bend the knees. And then heels into the ground. And then heels. And then bend the knees. Yeah. So if I can get you into a state of less apprehension or less complexity, less worrying about the future, whether it's going to go right or wrong, I will probably end up with a freer neck and back. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. If I provoke you into worrying about what's going to go on here and you being examined by the audience and you having to succeed and not make any mistakes, the chances are we'd have more interference in this area that wouldn't liberate the upper body. Let me take you further forwards and stop. Mm-hmm. Let me take you back again and stop and wait. And wait there. Good. And then stand up with the heels. And then bend the knees again. Yeah. Yeah. How's the part of you that often hurts this area, this hip area? How's it doing? Is it okay?
It's fine.
And stop. Yeah. So the job of an Alexander lesson is for me to help you get into a state where you're easy with yourself, that then liberates these upper parts of you that enable you to play the guitar with that freedom. And then to help you have that quality or condition without the guidance of the hands. And that will be the purpose of sessions. Okay, come with my hands over here. My hands are saying all the time, there's nothing you need to do. There's no rush, nothing complicated, no effort, and no hard thinking. So quite soft thinking in a way, quite easy. And kind to yourself, easy as you stand up with your heels. And then bend the knees from there. And stop at the stool. Heels. And bend the knees. Heels. And bend the knees. And then heels. That's it. And bend the knees over your toes. And stop. Yeah. So nothing in your neck still. Let the arms fall. And from there, stand up with the heels. And once more, bend the knees. Heels. And bend the knees again. Heels. Knees again. Yeah. That's it. One small bend the knees. And soften the tummy. Yeah. You can see even when I'm lifting up the arms quite high, I'm saying to your neck and back, there's nothing they need to do to participate. You're keeping that ideal of freedom going, whatever you're doing with your arms. And let me move you further forwards and stop. Yeah, and then stand up with the heels. Yeah, and then sit down again. Yeah. Okay, anything coming in? What's it like to sit in this condition or to move in this condition, even though it's multiple times? Anything, any feedback that you could give?
Very stable.
Stable, yeah. Is that a useful word in the music world, stable? Is it used as part of training?
For performance.
Yes, stable. Is that what you're asked to?
Stability.
Yeah.
Physical and emotional.
Physical and emotional stability, right. I've never heard people talk about Alexander with that word, but it's a great word. Stability, emotional and physical stability. It's a good way of describing what hopefully we promote with this work, is a background of physical and emotional stability while performance happens, or life happens, and not to get overly disturbed and destabilized by life. So that's very, very much a description of the technique that Alexander talked about. He used the term reaction, where the brain was never able to stay undisturbed for too long. It goes off into reaction and instability. Stand up with the heels. And so the work is very, very much about how to remain stable, undisturbed in the face of life's challenges. And then stand up with the heels and bend the knees. Heels. Or to remain, you could say, to remain free from the hips upwards, or you could say remain relaxed. It doesn't matter however you experience it. You experienced it very much of non-interference, of physical freedom in the hips upwards, where this wasn't participating. Stability in the mind-body, emotional. And the stuff that's doing things is the quads, the muscles of the legs. And they're doing stuff, but that's not the same as stress. They're just muscle activity, but you're remaining undisturbed and stable. So a bit like the chair work, for most of the time I'm going to do the moving for you, and for the most part, again, I'll ask you to do the best you can not to help me. So now I'm going to lift up a leg, and you're giving me permission to lift up the leg without doing the lifting for me. Let me take the weight of the leg. That's it. So you leave the knees pointing up there for a while. Okay, that's good. And what happens is, as you lie there, you're getting flatter and flatter onto the table. You might feel it, I don't know, in the lower back more. Basically, gravity is working on you. And your body's letting go of any holding patterns that it might be holding in the vertical position. Okay. What's it like? What's the experience just lying there, doing nothing?
Like the weight is the same all over the body.
Ah, yeah, it's evened out, yeah.
Yes.
So initially when you start lying down, you might feel the weight in certain spots more than other spots, and after a while it equalizes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more balanced.
More balanced, yeah. So the body gives you different feedback that it's all the same. It's not poking you with, oh, I feel something there, or I feel something there in the hips. Mm. And when the body gives that information to the brain of evenness, what quality of the brain is represented? What quality of the brain is available when you have that experience of evenness in the body? What's the mind saying? What condition?
Yeah, of course, calmness and
Yes, not complicated. Yes, calm.
it's emptiness.
Emptiness, calmness, yeah. It's not very difficult. It's exactly that. It's when there's an evenness of that experience in the body, we know that at the same time there'll be a calmness and emptiness in the mind. Exactly that. And I don't know if I can explain which one comes first or second. I think it's probably simultaneous. The mind and the body are operating as a whole, as one organism. And some people feel Alexander more on a physical plane. Some people feel it's much more of a mental calmness and emptiness and ease on an emotional or mental level. And people are different. But the two things always will go together. And it's that quality of calm and emptiness and evenness in the body, or flow in the body, even flow, that hopefully is available for you as a musician when you play, and for other people when they do their activities. That's something we could probably call peak performance, when you're in that state of calm emptiness and you're playing complex pieces and able to stay without the stress patterns of technical difficulty and of speed. Okay, and now I'm going to guide you as you walk towards the stool. And stand in front of the stool. Yep, feet a little wider, that's perfect. And take your hips back and bend the knees. Okay, that's fine. And you don't have to stay in this position. It's not a position to hold. It's a quality of emptiness that you can have in any position. So since I've told you that, you can now have a normal conversation with me for a few minutes. And if there's any questions or feedback that you want to share.
Yeah, it's interesting the difference in balance when you're lying down and when
Yes.
doing the boring up and down.
Yes. Just think I've been doing this for 35 years, getting people in and out of chairs.
Wonderful job.
I know, yeah.
And but it's interesting after doing that to do the up and down again. That
What is the difference for you?
That feeling here.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah.
Was it different afterwards? What was the
Yes.
difference? What was the quality difference afterwards? After we'd deepened things with the table work.
Well, it's the feeling of balance that
Yes.
you get there. You get here afterwards.
Right. So it lasted. It got deeper into you, so that the sitting and standing was.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't classify as relaxed anymore.
Yes.
It's not relaxed. It's something.
It's something else.
Under control.
Yes, and I think sometimes relax is a misunderstood term, because when people say relax, they think, oh.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that.
Yeah, even when, because I teach as well.
Yes.
Guitar, and then I've always thought that it's too much talk about relaxation.
Yes.
And too little talk about controlling the tension.
Exactly, and Alexander refused to use the word relax for that very reason. He said, when people hear the word relax, it's a misunderstood concept, and he was more interested in openness, flow, poise, vitality, and the absence of over control of the movement so that it operates at a high level of performance. Of course, you could say the mind is relaxed, but I think people translate this into feeling all the muscles have to be collapsed. So relax and collapse are problematic. And I think you've just experienced that your movements weren't relaxed, collapsed. They were relaxed but alive and stable and efficient. And I think that's really, really a very important distinction. We have to be quite careful with the words we choose when we're working with people. And relax is often a problematic term. So it's a good point that you're making. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you don't feel that relaxation, like sleeping kind of relaxation,
yes.
you feel like you are, doing something wrong.
I know. And to tell our pupils, students, that they're doing something wrong is a disaster. And you don't want them to tell them that they ought to be like this, and you want them to be alive and active and full of vitality, and for them not to feel there's something wrong if they're not floppy and wobbly and yeah. So sometimes words aren't going to be very helpful, which is why Alexander has a certain advantage in that respect, because it gives you the experience, then you give me the words. Stable. You use the word empty. What else? Calm, empty. Yeah, so you chose the words. Exactly, you chose the words. I give you the experience. And that's, in a way, it's a little bit safer than me telling you the words you have to understand, and then you try and obey the words, which can lead to a bit of a disaster zone. So yeah, this is based on experience rather than me instructing you, but based on an experience that can unfold inside of you when we create the right conditions.
Yes, I have actually part of my PhD is about emptiness.
Oh, fantastic!
So it's something that I didn't expect to feel here.
Yeah, I often describe it to the students that this work is about emptiness, emptiness of too much stress, emptiness of the adrenaline, cortisol, fear, anxiety, apprehension that you very nicely talked about. The absence of all of that feels empty.
What I found in my research is that there's a, well, I don't want to lecture about.
Oh, I'd be very happy. You've got another hour.
There's a difference between the understanding of emptiness in Asia and here. Right?
Yes.
Here, emptiness is as something that's missing, something that's lacking, and there's another understanding when you go to Japanese culture, for instance.
Yes.
That you have emptiness as possibilities.
Fantastic.
And here is interesting because it's you start by feeling that it's two different bodies.
Yes.
And then you feel that when the body is like stabilized, there's emptiness as this whole pool of possibilities.
A pool of possibilities, yeah.
That your body can do whatever.
he can come and have a talk to us about this idea of emptiness, because it's very, very, very relevant. In the Introduction to Use of the Self, Alexander's book, I write about emptiness being the possibility of fullness. Emptiness which is full of possibilities, full of vitality. It's not empty as in you lack something. It's empty which is, like the Eastern concept, very rich, very emotional, very engaged, very alive, and anything but empty as in sleepy, but empty in terms of opening the window to more life. And that's the sort of work we want to do. So I'm glad you experienced that. Very, very glad that you experienced that, because that is the deeper part of the Alexander technique, that we empty out the unnecessary and then it fills with something that we can't even find words for.
Yeah, there's this difference here in English language.
Yes.
Void and emptiness.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we can learn a lot from the language of the East.
Yeah.
So that we don't think emptiness is a lack, it's actually a potential full of possibilities.
Yeah.
And deepening of this.
They even have many different words in Japanese. Right? They have a concept of ma, for instance, that's the interval.
Yes.
I don't know how familiar.
I'd love to learn more about this language.
There are many different levels of emptiness in everyday life. In everything, right? And here we only have one kind of thing, that it's something missing.
Something missing, yes.
There's this ma concept that's very interesting. That's the space in between. That's what the emptiness that gives shape.
Right. So in our work, the emptiness of this overreactivity of the mind creates its own shape in terms of the neck and the back.
Yes.
It creates its own shape, rather than you thinking you have to create your own shape of good shoulders and necks and backs. The emptiness creates the form.
What I found interesting here as well is that you feel the shape of the body better.
Yes.
Because of your hand as well, they kind of delineate the body in a way.
They do delineate, but they also gave you that sense of evenness,
Yeah.
where one part wasn't dominant, but you were a vital whole, where everything was working at the same time, rather than some overly doing stuff, and then you feel, oh, I'm doing stuff here, I feel a bit more information here. At the end, you felt evenness of information, which is really another understanding of emptiness, because if it's even, nothing's talking. It's empty of language, it's empty of information. And you're left with the experience of the fullness of emptiness, which is great.
Particularly when you moved, like, it's a very sharp movement.
Yes.
Sound, but it's not violent.
Yes. So the Chinese call that wu wei. They call it non-doing, doing. The concept of the emptiness of the touch, which can be strong, but it can also be empty of intention and empty of violence. So your experiences are very accurate. Well, I look forward to hearing some more about your PhD. Good. Well, thank you so much for coming. That was really enlightening. I've learned a lot. I hope you've learned a little. And thank you again for coming.
My pleasure.